Hi all, I have another very interesting game to show you from the chess Olympiad. Let's have a look at the 10th round game of Magnus Carlsen against the top Iran player Ehsan Ghaem Maghami. Maghami has won apparently 12 Iranian chess championships, the last one in 2015. I'm reading this from chessgames.com. He broke the Israeli GM Gershen's 4-month-old world record for the largest symbol ever played by an individual by playing against 604 players. The result being plus 580, so he won 580, drew 16 and only lost 8. So fantastic achievement there as well. In July 2012, he won the Tehran Open Chess Championship with 8.5 out of 9. And the Resman Open also with 7.5 out of 9. So a really great player actually. His rating obviously is a bit lower than Magnus Carlsen. It's 2566. Magnus is 2857. Our current world champion 2857. Let's see what happened. D4. We have D5, and Magnus actually plays knight F3, indicating now we're going into potentially a London system. Yes, I'm from London, and yes, the London system I've sometimes said is a bit on the solid but potentially dull side as a caricature. White establishes usually a pawn on c3 to complete that London system triangle of pawns in the centre. Now here, this might be interesting for black to take on f4, so white retreats the bishop so he can take with the h pawn. And black played c5 quite often, theoretically, well, sorry, in practice quite often. Black castles, and we have a position like this. So black's delaying castling for a moment with c5, which you might not think is a big deal at all. c3, knight c6, knight bd2. It's pretty bog standard so far. And quite often here, players with black just castle now. For example, like this. It's not intensely exciting, but white might set up a very interesting bind in the center with this f4. So we have a kind of stonewall attack with the bishop not on c1 but here. That kind of thing has been seen before. Black's got some play on the light squares, and there's a nice rerouting maneuver shown by a high-level game of Adams recently. Just putting the knights like this, bishop e7 and plonking it into e4. That could be the Achilles heel of white's position if this had been played. But actually we get a quite unusual move actually from black. Bishop takes g3. After hg, it's as though black's given white some dynamic pressure, which is a little bit unexpected, really. And in fact, d takes c5 might actually be possible now. We have queen d6. Bishop b5, and all of a sudden really, actually, Magnus is prepared, because he wants to clamp down on black playing e5 as well. So he's prepared potentially to give up his light square bishop. We see bishop d7, and yes, he wants a bind. He plays bishop takes c6, and knight e5. So we have quite quiet play here, it seems, but white's got active pieces. The knight's active. There's no bad piece in white's position. The rook's quite active. But also, now, after knight e5, not only clamping, of course, on e5, and it's ready to support maybe with f4 that knight if it's challenged, but there's also the possibility of g4 here, which could be really interesting for g5. And it actually perhaps puts black off castling. Black played queen c7. If black castles, I mean, it does seem actually kind of dangerous. Just g4 here seems very dangerous. We're going to be chasing the knight away pretty soon. And if h6, then f4, and white can actually play like a caveman, just going in for g5. This is just really dangerous. There's a really aggressive rook here. How does black actually defend? This is an example variation. White could even just smash through, sacking a knight, and just end up winning the rook on a8 as an example. So that's pretty dangerous. So basically, let's go back Okay, so this g4 might be on if black castled. Black just retreated the queen. Now d takes is not possible the knight. Magnus is now reinforcing actually the knight on e5 because he's playing queen f3 to f4. Among other things, this reinforces the knight. Okay, and now we have queen e7. g4, as though g5 is a very real possibility. Now, in this position, we have knight h7 taking time to prevent g5. The queen retreats. Yeah, to g3. This is a very interesting position, and possibly white might be playing f4 and g5. We have rook g8, which forfeits casting rights. The king now is basically a bit precarious. Where is it gonna live? White just castles kingside. Knight f6, and a very logical plan now that black can't castle on the king side, is to open up the position. One caveat on that is usually you wouldn't want to open up the position for the bishops, but the bishop is not exactly, it's prone to be taken at any time. So we have rook ac1 with the idea of just trying to open up the position and expose king safety issues. Rook c8, c4, and it's really getting quite dangerous. D takes, yeah, the lines are being opened, and this is looking really horrible all of a sudden. This is just absolutely horrible, especially d6. White is immediately threatening things like knight takes f7 now, for knight d6 check, winning the queen. It's horrible threats like knight takes f7 anyway. So we have an awkward looking move, king e7. b4, yeah, the queen is really going to lose contact now with d6. If the white queen can head for d6, and it does so now with knight d3 hitting the queen. Queen can't stay on this diagonal. d6 has been compromised. We have knight e4 instead. If the queen moves, then the problem with queen d6 is actually the queen retreating after, facilitating knight d6 check. This would be just winning material, and that's quite easy for Magnus to win the exchange up there. So basically, yeah, after b4, this is really dangerous. This idea of getting queen to d6 now, spoiled by the knight. So we see knight e4. And this is a really clever idea, but there's an unfortunate sting for black coming. It's a really clever idea. Black's really clever idea is bishop b5. And the reason I say this is really clever, if white does a routine move here, black will be better or winning in the variations. Now, you might want to guess what Magnus plays. I'll give you 5 seconds. What would you play with white here if I give you 5 seconds? Starting from now. Okay, he played the brilliant rook takes f7, which breaks out of the pin with a vengeance, because actually now we've got knight d6 check, winning the rook on c8. Now before we go down that path, because white's actually just a piece up there, but before we go down that path, I just want to show you, this is a brilliant, otherwise brilliant concept. If knight e5, bishop takes f1, these scenarios are all favouring black. For example, rook takes, it's two knights for a rook, but black's got a fantastic pawn structure compared to white, and the knights are just being kicked around a bit actually. If we have this situation, black's doing really well actually. It's the pawn structure as well as the knights are a bit awkward. And even worse than that one is rook takes c8. Yeah, in a way, because the knights are just getting kicked around and black's ending up winning some pawns, and if white's left with treble pawns, this is just a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. There'll be outside pass pawn here. So Magnus's move bypasses all of this. Bang, rook takes f7, and it essentially, of course, it decides the game. It's a piece up. The knight's not stranded here. It takes on a7, hitting the bishop. And now, just before the knight is won with rook a8, again, a great move. Can you see what white plays? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, knight d3, yeah, threatening knight c5 check, winning the bishop. So there's no time to really try and get back the piece. Yeah, the knight's coming out, basically. It's going to be coming out. Also, if, say, b6 as a try, the knight's holding these two squares. I think we can just play knight b2 here, actually. But yeah, otherwise knight c5 check for a8. So a great game. It just shows even a simple choice of opening like the London system can be really destructive if the follow-up is really amazing. If you've got Magnus Carlsen at the driving wheel, yeah, this kind of solid opening is so dangerous. But black really took some risks. It seems as though black gave Magnus some dynamic play when he took on g3. And his king didn't find a safe haven. He'd compromised his castling rights. But bishop b5 was potentially a brilliant resource, but it was just elegantly refuted. Okay, so credit to both sides, actually. Comments, questions, likes, appreciated. Thanks very much.